Hey guys, welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is Tandee and today I'm going to be listing my top 7 things that I think Battle for Azeroth and all future World of Warcraft expansions should have. Anyhow, please bear with me as it is my first sort of professionally made YouTube video. As you'll see, it's pretty basic, but I'm still getting the gist of it. Some of these points that I make aren't commonly said by a lot of people, so I figured I should include them. But anyway, please give me your feedback so I know how to make better content. I hope that some of you can agree with the points I make on this video, so if you do, just give it a like and I hope you guys enjoy. Alright, so for my first point, I do think that Blizzard should implement a level squish. Honestly, when you think about it, having 120 levels in a game, especially an MMORPG, it's just a lot. It's a bit overwhelming, especially for new players. Like, for example, whenever someone asks me, someone who doesn't know anything about the game, whenever they ask me, oh, so how many levels are there? And I say 120, they're like, wow, that's a lot. And it's because it is. I know leveling is a core part of the game, and it still can be. I just think that instead of adding 5-10 levels every expansion, pretty soon the level cap is going to be super high, and I think they should squish it down to maybe like 80 or 90, so I guess like 5 to 10 levels for each expansion's like primary leveling hub. And honestly, I do think that a level squish will do really good by the game, leveling wise, going from 1 to 80 or 1 to 90. I think that it'll definitely slow down the leveling pace, but it'll be more fun. Not necessarily make it harder, but I think that when it's slowed down, you have more time with your character and you also appreciate your character's value more, as you used to in World of Warcraft. Okay, so for number 2 on this list is talent trees. I know this is a very popular opinion, and for good reasons. It has nothing to do with nostalgia, or looking through rose-tinted goggles, or being a old-school WoW fanboy, fangirl, whatever. I just think that the game design was so much better with the talent trees. Your character felt unique. You felt like you could do so much with your character, a lot more than what you can now, a lot more with getting a new passive or a new spell every 15 levels. It's just boring. Getting a new talent to put into a system every level, starting at 10, was so much more unique and so much more fun. And like I said, it's just good game design. I wish Blizzard would implement this back into the game. I know that if they did, a lot of people would solely come back and subscribe to the game for that. I would be so much more inclined to play current World of Warcraft if they brought back talent trees. So going more in depth with it, if you look at the first Diablo and Diablo 2, they had old talent trees also. And when Diablo 3 came out, they made the more modernized talent trees. By the way, also kind of around the same time when World of Warcraft went with the more modern talent tree system as well, it put a really negative effect on the game. I wish Blizzard didn't get rid of that character dynamic. For example, back in TBC, there was something called a Dream State Druid. Dream State Druids in arenas were like super deadly. It was a mix between balance and restoration, where you could heal really efficiently at the same time and do so much damage against the enemy, and it was a super high win rate in 2s. Same thing with the Pharrell Resto Druids, where with the Feral Charge and a Stunlock, being able to Cyclone and being able to heal all at the same time. And those specs went really good with like rogues, ret paladins, warriors, and whatnot. And yes, I know someone will say I have no clue what I'm talking about and how ret paladins were awful back then. Actually, if you played them right and you had good gear and a Wind Fury totem, you could go up against Destruction Warlocks, aka top DPS in raids. So for number 3 on this list, I think that Blizzard should really bring back the proper use of vendors in WoW, along with like currency. For example, back in Kata, we had Valor points and Justice points, and I remember doing dungeons to farm the Valor points, heroic dungeons to farm the Valor points. It was just so much fun getting enough Valor points and being able to get the item level 397 gear that would drop off Dragon Soul. And the feeling of reward from being able to obtain that gear, it was just so much better than nowadays just doing a heroic dungeon, getting some AP here and there, not getting any loot, and feeling like you completely wasted your time knowing you literally got nothing out of that if you got no loot, and getting like 30 gold off of a mob, especially with how high the gold cap is. 30 gold is nothing. I mean, am I wrong though? The feeling is terrible when you come back from a heroic dungeon or a normal dungeon, whatever, and you come back empty-handed with just some gold, AP, or a piece of Azurite gear, and the stats on it are complete crap compared to what you have. It's just not rewarding. It doesn't feel worthwhile. So my next point on this list is, it's pretty small, so it's going to be pretty brief, but overall there has been 3 classes introduced into the game. Death Knights, Demon Hunters, and Monks, and none of them are casters. So I think if Blizzard introduced a caster class, that would be so badass. Like a new caster class with like a little spice, little flavor, something new with new lore, a new look, new spell animations, abilities. It would be like a highlight of an expansion. And I really hope that in the future, Blizz can really bring a really cool caster class in. It's been long since needed, definitely, because honestly after a while playing melee and playing the current caster classes, it gets really boring. I main melee, and I know that after a while just standing on the target, I want to play a caster, but like I've played mages for years, I played warlocks. It's time for something new. So number 5 on my list is pretty important. I think that they should just completely get rid of bonus loot and bring back master loot. Why they thought to get rid of master loot in the first place, I have no clue. Master loot was like one of the main points of the entire game. It's been in the game since the very beginning, and it was very fair. Personal loot and bonus loot, it's just so RNG, and RNG, as a lot of people say, like really corrupted the game. It made everything unfair for a lot of people. I know some people who quit solely because of the RNG aspect, and I really hope that they one day just get rid of bonus loot. I know it probably won't happen, but I would love it if they just brought back bosses dropping gear and people rolling like normal, like how it should be. And for those of you excited for Classic and haven't really played it before, be prepared that there isn't a lot of RNG, and the only RNG you really see is spawn time, loot drops, the percentage of the drops, where rares spawn, and whatnot. So number 6 on this list is a profession kind of rehaul. Although I do like what they did in BFA, where they squished it for each expansion. That was nice because it got rid of the awkwardness where you were able to mine Imperium and have a mining skill of 3. That was really awkward. I would just love for them to optimize professions, because in BFA, professions really aren't that important. Whenever I scrap my the gear, the greens I get out in the world, I don't really put it towards professions because it feels like a complete waste. I honestly just sell it on the auction house. It seems smarter to do it that way, which is sad. So I would love for it to be fixed, kind of changed a little. And the other most important thing about this is bring smelting back. I miss having smelting in the game. I miss being able to get the ore and smelt it into bars. That literally made mining what mining is. And so my last point is kind of a big one. It's a bit controversial, because I know a lot of people do like this, but I think that they should get rid of pathfinding. And it's controversial to me too, because I sort of like it, but it's like a love-hate relationship. Honestly, pathfinding is Blizzard's excuse for a lack of content. That sounds so like the opposite of what it is, but it really is an excuse for a lack of content. Why would you get the rep for those zones? The rewards that came with getting the rep for the Nightfallen, for all those zones, were garbage. You could get better gear instantly in Emerald Nightmare LFR. The only rewards really other than that were like dinky profession rewards for alchemy or whatnot. And getting those reps were completely pointless. And it's sad because, again, back in the day, grinding rep really meant something. Like, you really were rewarded very well for grinding rep. And it's just Blizzard's way of making you stay subscribed to the game to make you feel like you have something to do. Because it was a lot to do. You know, explore every single zone, get the rep, do 100 world quests, and a few other things that I can't think of right now. But it was a lot to do. And it was content in itself, but it was also an excuse for a lack of content because Blizzard knew that players weren't going to do that stuff otherwise unless they had a reward to be able to fly. And that branches off a little because, first of all, I wish that you could just pay gold to fly like you used to. That is so much simpler, and to make up for the loss of pathfinding, make actual good content in the game. And by content, I don't mean like a new dungeon or a new raid or like a new scenario type thing or a new quest hub, whatever. I mean like the little small things that really do matter, like having to get rep in order to do heroic dungeons. Throwback to Burning Crusade, you had to be honored with all of those Shatrath City reps in order to, you know, get the key and be able to do heroic dungeons. That was incentive to get that rep so that you can actually gear up for raids. And brilliant game design back then. And don't think I'm saying that everything back then was perfect, because it wasn't. I could point out so many things that I didn't like about BC and vanilla. It wasn't a perfect game, but a lot of the stuff was much better than today's game. Okay, so that completes my list, although I do have 2 honorable mentions. So this one's really nitpicky, but I really don't like the new sound effects in the game, especially for the hunters. Shooting a bow, shooting a gun, it legit just sounds like you're shooting a rubber band. It's not satisfying for the gameplay at all. And my last point is I would love to see some Mythic Keystone time walking introduced, like for Vanilla, TBC, Wrath, and up to Kata, because those dungeons were considerably hard. You had to do a lot more planning. You actually needed CC, you actually needed to mark things, and even in Kata, I think a lot of Kata's dungeons were one of the hardest dungeons to this day. So that completes my list for today, and I hope that whoever watches it enjoyed it. Although I'm pretty new to this, I do plan on uploading more WoW related content and even some other video games. Also, I hope this didn't come out as like too anti-BFA, because that's really not my point. But anyway, thank you very much for watching.